The following is an exclusive presentation of Turner Sports. In 1998, cable television's exclusive host for the 18th Olympic Winter Games from Nagano, Japan, and the 4th Goodwill Games from New York.
Homestand of the season comes to a close today as the Atlanta Braves play host to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Hi, everybody. Pete Van Weren along with Joe Simpson welcoming you to Turner Field in Atlanta. Braves finishing up a 12-game homestand, a homestand where they hope to gain a lot of ground in the race in the National League East, but it's kind of been one where they've treaded water throughout. In the first 11 games on this homestand, the Braves a game under 500. The ERA very uncharacteristic for this Braves pitching staff. The Braves have been outscored on the homestand, and defensively a lot of mistakes made. 14 errors in the 11 games. But the lead remains 5 games over the Florida Marlins. And, Joe, I guess you have to look at the Marlins as having had some opportunities along the way here to gain some ground, which they haven't done.
Yeah, it's been frustrating for both sides, I think, Pete. Yeah, because the Braves have had chances to pick up some ground on the Marlins. They haven't done it. And if you're a fan of the Marlins, they haven't gained any ground either. It seems like every night the Braves win, the Marlins win. Braves lose, the Marlins lose. So the lead is still at 5 games. And maybe as a result of some of that frustration, the Florida Marlins today pulled the trigger on a deal, and the purge in Philadelphia has begun. Darren Daulton has been traded to the Florida Marlins for minor league outfielder Billy McMillan. But for the Atlanta Braves, yes, you look at those errors. That's the one thing that glares out at me. 14 errors in those 11 games and 3 yesterday that really hurt. But if you're going to have a win or a must-win type situation at the end of a homestand where you want to pick up a game and finish at 500, you want Tom Glavine on the mound. He has won 5 of his 10 games right after a Braves loss.
His mound opponent today, a tough one, Hideo Nomo, who is 2-0 lifetime against Atlanta. Hideo Nomo against Tom Glavine, final game of the homestand. We'll be back with the starting lineups and all the action from Turner Field right after this.
The Los Angeles Dodgers have won 2 of the first 3 games of this 4-game series, and here's the extra-strength Tylenol starting lineup for Billy Russell this afternoon. It's a little different look than what we've seen the first 3 games of this series, with Roger Cedeno returning to the lineup, and he'll bat first and play center field. Wilton Guerrero will bat second at shortstop. Raul Mondesi moves into the 3 spot since Mike Piazza is unable to play today, and Mondesi will be in right field. Eric Karros remains the cleanup hitter. Todd Zeile at third base. Billy Ashley back in the lineup in left field. Tom Prince took over for Piazza yesterday after he hurt his leg, and he'll bat 7th. Nelson Liriano had 2 hits yesterday. He's back at second base, and on the mound batting 9th will be Hideo Nomo. The Braves defensively in the outfield will have Klesko, Andrew Jones, and Michael Tucker. On the infield, Chipper Jones, Blauser, Lemke, and McGriff. Eddie Perez will do the catching. Tom Glavine the pitching. The Atlanta Braves take the field. Umpires for today's ball game. This crew's been here for 6 days. And the crew chief will be behind the plate today, Terry Tata. And it will be a hot one here at the ballpark this afternoon. Bruce Dreckman's at first base, Ed Rapawano at second, and Brian Gorman will work at third. Yesterday, Mike Piazza in the first inning got a base hit. Brian Klesko's throw to the plate allowed him to try to go to second, and he injured it right here. His first step after he rounded first, he hit some loose dirt around the bag at first, slipped a little bit, and Mike Piazza claimed that's when he felt the tug in the back of his left leg. Charlie Strasser, the trainer for the Dodgers, and Billy Russell both told me that the injury is not considered to be serious, but they're going to hold him out another day or 2 just to make sure. And Tom Prince gets the start behind the plate for the Dodgers this afternoon. Tom Glavine's on the mound for the Braves. He makes his 21st start of the year. He has an excellent record and ERA here at home, with 1.88 being the mark here at Turner Field. This year he's already made 2 starts against the Dodgers. He is 1-1 against them, and lifetime a losing record. This is a ball club that has given him trouble. He is 12-14 overall in his career against the Los Angeles Dodgers, but pitching some of his best baseball of the year of late. Over his last 5 starts, he is 3-1 and beat the Rockies here 5 days ago, beat him by a score of 8-1, gave up only 1 run on 5 hits in 8 innings to a very good hitting ball club. Billy Russell's team's playing some pretty good baseball, Pete. They have had a good road trip. They won 2 in Colorado, lost 2 in Florida, but have a chance to go home today with a 5-3 mark on an otherwise pretty tough trip.
And they're making their run right now at the San Francisco Giants. They've climbed to within 3 games of the lead in the National League West. And here's Roger Cedeno in center field, leading off, a .266 hitter for the year with 1 homer, and he takes ball 1 as we are underway from Turner Field. Cedeno with hits in 13 of his last 14 games. The 1-0 on the way is off the end of the bat, foul. 1 ball, 1 strike on Cedeno. Wilton Guerrero will follow, and then Raul Mondesi. Dodgers doing a little lineup shuffling at the last minute today. They hope to get Greg Gagne back in the lineup today, but Gagne still bothered by a bout with pink eye. Here's the 1-1. Little broken bat flare into shallow center. Andrew Jones is there for the catch. 1 away. And that'll bring up Wilton Guerrero, playing shortstop again today, hitting .293 for the year.
He has not torn the Braves up offensively. Only 2 hits and 11 trips in the series, but he's made the most of those hits. He's delivered a couple of key RBIs.
Only a .217 hitter this year from the right side. Hitting .319 as a left-hand hitter. Takes ball 1 from Glavine. Warm and humid again today at Turner Field, but it looks like our rain that was supposedly headed this way for the last 2 or 3 days has kind of gone away. Nice play by Lemke as he throws out Guerrero. 2 down.
Excellent play. Robbed him of a base hit.
And now Raul Mondesi, .292 with 20 home runs, and here is home run number 20. It came in the 9th inning yesterday off of Mike Bielecki. Pitch up above the belt, and he didn't miss it.
Yeah, that was a launch job. Just a matter of whether it was going to be fair or foul.
He has a 9-game hitting streak. No strikes. Dodgers offensively have been very hot of late. They've scored 5 runs or more in 14 of their last 16 games.
Yeah, normally you think it's going to be with their pitching, but they're missing Ishmael Valdez and Ramon Martinez from their rotation.
Count goes to 2-0. Bill Russell going through a lot in this first full year as Dodger manager. Here's the 2-0 pitch, and there's a line drive to right field. Tucker is there. He's got it, and a 1-2-3 start for Tom Glavine. Dodgers go quietly in the top of the first. Braves coming up.
Tom Glavine has a perfect top of the first inning. Now the Braves batting order. Jeff Blauser will start it off. Michael Tucker has been struggling. He'll bat second. Chipper Jones third. Fred McGriff the cleanup hitter. Then Klesko, Jones, and Perez. Mark Lemke bats 8th. Tom Glavine 9th. For the Dodgers today, defensively, their look has Ashley in left, Cedeno in center, Mondesi in right, Todd Zeile and Wilton Guerrero on the left side, Nelson Liriano and Eric Karros on the right side of the infield. Tom Prince to do the catching, and on the mound, Hideo Nomo, who is 9-8, has a good ERA of 3.83. But Billy Russell says he's been a little inconsistent. He'll have 2 good games, 2 bad games. Today, he's due for a good one.
And here's Jeff Blauser leading off the bottom of the first for Atlanta, and he fouls away the first one 0-1. Jeff has had a good series, 5 out of 12, right at .340 for the year with 12 home runs. Braves only have 2 hitters in the lineup today, hitting over 200 against Hideo Nomo lifetime. Blauser 3 for 10, right at 300, and Fred McGriff 4 out of 13 at 308. Nobody else hitting even 200.
Yeah, as we go through these batting orders too, the Dodger pitchers as a rule have handled the Atlanta hitters.
Fouled away, the count 1-2. Jeff Blauser has always felt against Nomo going the other way, the best way to try to solve him.
Well, his split finger pitch is the key to his success. If it's working today, it's going to be a long day for the Braves hitters. His control of that pitch has not been real good of late.
The 1-2 on the way.
Up and away. Check swing didn't go, says Bruce Streckman. The count 2-2 now on Blauser.
In Nomo's last 19 innings, he's walked 12 batters, but he's also struck out 20 over that stretch.
Now the 2-2, and there is that split finger pitch, and it worked on the first hitter. One down.
Hopefully not a prelude of what we're going to see the rest of the day, because that was an excellent pitch. The Braves yesterday struck out 15 times against Park, Guthrie, Dreifert, and Morel. And 2 days ago, they struck out 9 times against Astacio and Radinsky.
That'll bring up Michael Tucker, who's trying to battle his way out of a long slump. 2 for his last 31. His average down to 286 for the year. Trying to butt his way on. Files it back 0-1. He is 0 for 7 in this series. One ball, one strike on Tucker. No score. Bottom half of the first. Braves right after this game leave for Chicago. Double dip tomorrow at Wrigley Field.
Yeah, that first game, we'll have both of them for you on TBS. The first game starts at 1:05 Eastern.
Here's the 2-1 on the way, and it's 3-1 now on Tucker with Chipper Jones waiting on deck.
Our broadcast will start at 1 o'clock.
Nomo's 3-1 delivery off the end of the bat foul. Full count 3-2. The doubleheader tomorrow brought about by the snow out.
Yeah.
The Braves had their first trip up to Chicago back in April.
One of the things that's plagued Michael on this homestand, I think, Pete, has just been his timing's been off a little bit, just like that 3-1 pitch that he was way early on and hit it off the end of the bat.
Now 3-2 on the way, and that's driven down the right field line. Fair, headed toward the right field corner. Tucker rounding first, on his way to second. Mondesi up with the ball. Good throwing arm, and he'll hold Michael Tucker to a double. So a good start for Atlanta here in the bottom half of the first inning. A one-out double for Michael Tucker. His 18th two-base hit of the year.
Boy, he turned on this pitch beautifully. Hooked it right down the line. And Mondesi went in to get it. Raul has gone over to his position, and he doesn't have his hat on. I was wondering when he was going to come back and get it. Made a strong throw in to hold Tucker to a double, but Raul, when he went into the corner, lost his hat and then went to his position without his cap on.
Well, a warm day like this, maybe you just hope nobody notices. Chipper Jones, the hitter. Here's one pitcher, Hideo Nomo, that Chipper Jones has been unable to solve in his career. He's 0 for 12 lifetime against Nomo. One ball, no strikes.
And that's a career high for doubles for Michael Tucker. That was his 18th. Maybe that'll get him kick-started.
Count goes to 2-0 on Chipper Jones. Much more compact delivery from Nomo with runners on base.
Chipper hitting only .207 against Dodger pitching this year. Tucker was hitting only .158 before that last at bat. Andrew Jones .190.
A 2-1 count now on Chipper Jones. Runner at second, one down.
Those are the kind of numbers we normally see from opponents against Braves pitchers.
Chipper just 2 for 10 in this series, and he was red hot coming into this series. In fact, he's still hitting at a .396 clip for the last 26 games.
Yeah, they've done a good job on Chipper and Klesko.
Here's the 2-1. Good fastball. 2-2.
Another great crowd. The Braves have gone over 2 million during this homestand.
Another sellout today. It's a full count now on Chipper Jones, 3-2. Fred McGriff on deck. 3-2 pitch, little flare hit out toward short. Guerrero there for the catch. And 2 are down here with a runner at second. And the batter will be Fred McGriff.
Well, he was just not going to let Chipper get his hands extended. He's up on top of the plate a little bit and made 2 good pitches in on his hands. One that was a ball and this one too close to take, and Chipper couldn't get around on it.
McGriff at 281 for the year, and as we mentioned, the only other hitter besides Jeff Blauser who has had much success against Nomo in the past. He's 4 for 13 lifetime against him. No strikes.
And not so coincidentally, those are the 2 guys that have had the best series. Blauser 5 for 14, McGriff 4 for 11 with a homer and 3 RBIs.
Did not go. The count goes to 2-0 on Fred McGriff. Yeah, Fred's power numbers beginning to come up just a little bit. He's got 14 doubles now this year, 12 home runs. The RBIs have been there really all year long.
Bill Russell said something interesting about his at bat yesterday with the bases loaded and a 3-0 count when he hit the ball down the third base line. He said, we'll take that on a 3-0 count from Fred McGriff every time.
Now a 2-0 pitch up and in, ball 3-0. Ryan Klesko waiting on deck.
And here's another 3-0 count.
Came up empty that time. 3-1.
We see a lot of teams play Fred a little bit toward left center field, Pete, but the Dodgers really don't overplay anyone. They shade him a little bit over to right field, Cedeno over to the right field side of second base. But for the most part, they like to bunch their outfielders and give you the lines.
Three balls, 1 strike, 2 outs. Tucker down at second. And down to first with a walk goes McGriff. That'll bring up Ryan Klesko. Runners first and second, 2 down. There you see how Nomo's control, not quite what it was a year ago.
He walked 5 in his last outing against the Marlins and got beat by Florida 5-1. He lasted only 5 2/3 innings. Gave up 8 hits to go with those 5 walks and 5 runs.
Ryan Klesko just 1 for 10 in the series, hitting .267 on the year, 18 homers. And he takes ball 1. On the fastball, 1 ball, 1 strike on Ryan.
It sure hasn't caused him to slow that swing down any, has it? He's not thinking.
I have never seen Ryan take a weak swing. McGriff at first, Tucker at second, 2 outs. And the 1-1 on the way, driven to left field, base hit. Tucker will get the green light around third. Ashley up with the ball, gets the throw back to the infield. 1-0 Atlanta. As Ryan Klesko drives in his 61st run of the year, going the other way to get Tucker home.
Pete, that was not a launch swing. That was a very controlled level. Watch him take this pitch to left field. Stayed on the ball. His head was on it. Everything stayed right there, and a good piece of hitting by Klesko to put the Braves on top. That was beautiful.
1-0 Atlanta. Andrew Jones steps in. McGriff stopped down at second base. Andrew comes in at .280, just 2 for 10 in this series. Into right center field, Cedeno coming on, diving catch out there to take a base hit, probably extra bases away from Andrew Jones. And Hideo Nomo is out of the inning with only the 1-run scoring, thanks to that play by Roger Cedeno. 1-0 Atlanta as we head to the top of the second. Braves jumping on top 1-0 as we head to the top of the second. Eric Karros, Todd Zeile, and Billy Ashley due up against Tom Glavine. And Karros will start things. His 22-game hitting streak came to an end yesterday, hitting .273 now for the year with 22 homers, 67 RBIs. 1 ball, no strikes.
Pete, going back to that deal today where the Marlins acquired Darren Dalton, we were sitting around the table at lunch today talking about where is he going to play for that ball club, and some speculation has him playing first base because Jeff Conine's been struggling so much.
And you almost wonder with the dealing of Pat Rapp, member of the starting rotation of the Marlins, back to the Giants, and the acquisition now of Darren Dalton, you almost wonder if maybe the Marlins have something else up their sleeves. 2-1 the count now on Eric Karros.
Well, they needed some left-handed power in their lineup. All they had was Bobby Bonilla when he was hitting left-handed.
2-2.
Everything else was right-handed heavy with Sheffield and Moises Alou and Conine.
Here's the 2-2 now on the way to Karros. Grounds one up the middle. Jeff Blauser knocks it down, picks it up, throws on to first. It is not in time. And Eric Karros reaching to lead off the top of the second on yet another Atlanta error. 15th error made by the Braves on this 12-game homestand.
Jeff got to this one, but it hit on the heel of his glove and wouldn't stay in there. And Karros beat it by a pretty good margin. It's going to be a tough play to begin with and no room for error.
That'll bring up Todd Zeile, a .236 average, but 20 homers and 51 RBIs. Takes a strike 0-1.
He's hitting what you call a hard .236. His average isn't much, but his production's pretty good for the hits he does get.
Here's the 0-1 on the way. Just off the outside corner. 1 ball, 1 strike. And we talked about the Dodgers offensively of late. Zeile has been one of the reasons. A .340 average over his last 14 games. If you asked Bill Russell what he would like to see from his Dodgers the rest of the year, I'm sure his first answer would be some consistency. They have really been a streaky ball club this year. You look at their day-by-day record. They were 6 games over 500 just 14 games into the season. But 22 games into the season, they were right at 500. Then they worked their way back up to 7 games over 500 by May 10th. By the end of June, they were 3 games under 500. And now they've gone 13-4 in July. So they've had a hot month, a cold month, a hot month, a cold month. They can't seem to put 2 good months together back to back. This one's going to drop out of play. And the count 2-2.
Well, along with Anaheim, they have the best record in the month of July at 13-4. And you pointed out that they've been doing it with some offense. .318 team average.
6.5 runs a game.
That'll do it for you.
The pitching is there and will be there. And they're even getting by with 2 of their starting pitchers out of there. Tom Candioti's done a good job getting back in the rotation. There's a drive deep left field by Zeile. Klesko got a late break on it. Now gets turned around on the warning track, makes the catch. Looked like he was in trouble on that one, but he was able to recover and grab it for out number 1.
Well, it's a funny thing. He said last night after the ball game in which Tom Prince hit the ball that he couldn't come up with in left center. He said, I'm having trouble picking the ball up off the bat in the day games. It's hard to see it in the shirt sleeves. And I thought he lost the ball in the sun yesterday, but he said no. He was just trying to keep it from being a triple instead of a double. And maybe he had a little bit of a hard time picking that one up.
Here's Billy Ashley hitting .255 with 5 homers. He has been trouble for Tom Glavine. 6 for 16 with a home run lifetime. Takes a strike 0-1. Ashley continues to have problems with the strikeouts. 34 strikeouts and 106 at bats.
Here's that play yesterday with Ryan. Had it tracked, but didn't seem to get to the wall in time to try to make the catch.
1 gone. Karros at first. Glavine goes over there. Karros has 9 steals this year.
Yeah, and not generally considered that fleet of foot.
The 0-1. Caught the corner. 1 ball or no balls, 2 strikes.
Their outfield situation has been such that with the return of Todd Hollinsworth from AAA swinging a hot bat, Brett Butler doing a great job of getting on base, that it's squeezed a lot of at-bats away from Billy Ashley.
One ball, 2 strikes.
Here's a guy that was the Coast League Player of the Year, I think 2 years in a row, and hit tons of home runs, and he's got 106 at-bats this year.
Yeah, it looked like this in spring training anyway. It looked like this might be one of those breakthrough years for Ashley. It looked like he was going to get a lot of playing time. They know he's going to strike out a lot, but they also know that he can hit the ball out of the ballpark. There's another strikeout. That is 35 strikeouts and 107 at-bats for Ashley. And out number 2 here in the top of the second.
First strikeout for Glavine, and boy, did he put it in a good spot. Look at the target of Eddie Perez. Barely had to move the glove, and it might have been a borderline pitch, but because it was so close to the target, Terry Tata gave him the benefit of the doubt.
That'll bring up Tom Prince in there for Mike Piazza today. Prince hitting .250 for the year. No homers and 7 RBIs. He takes a strike, 0-1.
You know, Pete, if the Braves are making some mistakes like they did yesterday, they made 3 crucial errors, and here's a leadoff error committed. You know, you've got to bear down like Tom Glavine is doing and try to cover those up. Pick up your defenders, make a good pitch, get an out here and there, and hope that the errors don't come back to haunt you.
1 ball, 1 strike. On the ground to third, Chipper Jones. Go across to first in time. And Glavine does pitch around the error. The runner's stranded. We go to the bottom half of the second. 1-0 Atlanta.
We thank those fans for their hard work and remind them that this telecast is authorized under broadcasting rights granted by the Atlanta National League Baseball Club and is intended solely for the entertainment of our audience. Any publication, rebroadcast, retransmission of the pictures or descriptions of this game without the express written consent of the Atlanta National League Baseball Club is prohibited.
And in the bottom half of the second inning will be the lower third of the order. Eddie Perez, Mark Lemke, and Tom Glavine do up against Hideo Nomo, who's trailing 1-0. And that will be a very common sight in the stands today. It is a little steamy. For the last couple of days, the Atlanta area has been warned about the imminent arrival of the tropical storm, former Hurricane Danny, that it was going to bring a lot of rain up here, but now it looks like that thing is kind of petering out down in lower Alabama, and maybe no rain at all, maybe just an occasional shower the next couple of days. So this series was not threatened by all that rain as they thought it would be. 1 ball, no strikes on Eddie Perez.
Did you see how much rain, though, fell in that one
30
area?
inches.
Theodore, Alabama, north of Mobile.
30 inches of rain in 2 days. Incredible. 2-0 the count. There's a strike in the count. 2-1.
Javi Lopez eligible to come off the disabled list today, but no word as to whether or not he's going to be activated. The discussion, speculation was that he would be activated.
Count goes to 3-1.
Although in his efforts to test his thumb, swinging with a protective device on the thumb, he's still feeling some pain in that thumb, and they say it's really not going to get better for about 3 or 4 weeks.
Now the 3-1 on the way, and there's another walk. Second issued by Nomo in the game. Perez aboard to lead off the bottom of the second. The other injury that the Braves continue to watch is that of Kenny Lofton, who remains on the disabled list with that groin problem. He did take batting practice today, was out running the bases, looked maybe a little more comfortable than he has recently, and the Braves have announced that he's going to stay back in Atlanta when the Braves leave for Chicago after the game, get some more treatment on that, possibly even a rehab assignment in store for Kenny Lofton. Grounded by Lemke, foul off to the right, 0-1.
He says he's running fine straight ahead.
It's
no trouble.
It's the turns and the quick starts.
Yep, it's the crossover step. He said that's what got him the first time, and that's the one he's got to be careful of. And speaking of rehab, Terrell Wade is going to begin his rehab assignment tonight in Greenville, the AA affiliate.
Lemke 1 for 7 in the series. 2 the count.
Mark was swinging the bat pretty good yesterday. He hit the ball hard 3 times, only had 1 hit to show for it, and that was a double to right center. But some good signs for him.
Nobody out. Perez at first. And the 0-2 on the way to Lemke. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Some of the sports writers today speculating in the paper about when Tony Graffinino might be given more at bats. He's been swinging so well.
Two balls, 2 strikes. Tony had a pinch hit home run in this series. On the year now, Graffinino 296. 2-2 on the way to Lemke. Strike 3 call. Nomo nails the outside corner for his 2nd strikeout of the game. 1 gone.
That looked like a fastball that had some pretty good movement going away from Mark. Tailed a little bit and caught enough of the corner for Terry Tata to ring him up.
1 down. Perez still at first. That'll bring up Tom Glavine up to 237 for the year. He's driven in 5 runs. 13 sacrifice bunts. Let's see if he's bunting here. Fouls it back. 0-1. He leads the league in sacrifices. 2 Dodgers, Wilton Guerrero and Brett Butler right behind. Glavine has 13, Guerrero 11, Butler 10 in the sacrifice bunt department. Again, he squares, takes this one down low. 1-1 on Glavine.
Nomo does such a good job of keeping his fastball and split finger pitch down as a general rule that you've almost got to start with your bat out in front of you to bunt at a little lower level than you might normally start. But that makes it a little easier if the ball's going down to bunt it down into the ground and keep it fair.
There goes Perez, hit and run, and Glavine delivers. Lines one into left center field. Right through the vacated spot as Guerrero was going over to cover. So Bobby Cox takes the bunt off, puts the hit and run on, and it works. Runners first and second, 1 out.
Oh, this was a thing of beauty. Had the shortstop covering, an inside out swing, hit it right in the spot he had just left. And Eddie Perez got to second base and rounded it, but had to hold up there. No chance to advance, but a great piece of hitting by Tom Glavine.
Hit number 3 of the day for Atlanta off Nomo. Now Jeff Blauser is struck out in the 1st inning. Ball 1 low and inside. That was a good piece of hitting for an everyday player.
You bet.
Much less a pitcher. But as you know, Tom Glavine has always been able to help himself offensively.
Todd Zeile and Eric Karros were glad he could handle the situation and hit it up the middle and not pull it or slice it at either one of them.
Foul back by Blauser. 1 ball, 1 strike.
One of the things that's been impressive about Jeff's swing here of late, Pete, I think, as we're in the heart of these dog days of the baseball season, but has been the strength that he still has in his hands and forearms, despite playing every day in a position that is very taxing physically, but he is still strong and still has good bat speed.
Yeah, this is that time of year when, with all the warm weather, you start to see some of the bats slow down a little bit. That really hasn't happened with Blauser. He's been right at that 340 mark all season long. Did he go? No, says Bruce Streckman. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Might have gotten a break there. Let's see. Yep, he caught a break.
I think he did get a benefit of the call there. Perez down at second. Glavine over at first. 2-2 the count in Blauser. He knew it.
Yep.
Right down the middle. Third strikeout for Nomo. Had to be looking for something else there, Joe.
Well, you mentioned earlier, Pete, and I think he's right in trying to take him to right field. When this fastball starts in and comes in on you a little bit more, that's just a tough pitch, number one, to pull the trigger on, and number two, to do anything with, even if you do swing at it. And it just locked him up. Give Nomo credit. That was an excellent pitch.
2 outs now, runners first and second for Michael Tucker, who got his first hit of the series. A double into the right field corner in the first inning. Came around to score the Atlanta run. And he takes ball one. Count even, 1 ball, 1 strike.
There have been stretches where Michael's had these games of incredible numbers and 4-hit games, 2 or 3 of them over a 2-week span. What's hard to comprehend is that he has been so hot that he's only had 7 hits this entire homestand.
Pull that one foul. The count 1-2 now on Tucker.
Bobby gave him a much deserved day off a couple of days ago, thinking that might help him, because Michael's been an Iron Man out in right field too.
Now at 288 overall for the year. And pretty evenly divided up his batting average against lefties and righties. 304 against left-handers, actually hitting better against lefties. 280 against right-handers this year. Here's the 2-2 into left field. Ashley coming over for that one. Can't get it. It gets by him. In to score, Eddie Perez. Tom Glavine around third. He'll head home. Heading for third, Michael Tucker. He is out at third. The second run does not count. Eddie Perez's run does count, but Glavine unable to get home before they tagged out Michael Tucker at third. So the Braves will settle for 1 as Tucker drives in his 44th run of the year and head to the third inning with a 2-0 lead over the Dodgers. Braves leading at 2-0. They lose a third run as Tom Glavine unable to get home before Michael Tucker was thrown out at third. By the way, Tucker credited with a single and an RBI and an error charge to Billy Ashley, allowing Tucker to get to second. He was trying to make it all the way around to third on that boot by Ashley.
Michael Tucker is one of the better base runners on this ball club, but one of the cardinal rules of not making the first or third out at third base came back to haunt him here. Ashley charged with an error, but did recover in time to get the ball back in, and a wise play here by the Dodger infielders to let the ball come through to third base as Tucker was trying to go to third, and the tag applied before Tom Glavine scores. Watch Eddie Perez. He knows it's going to be close, and Terry Tata says he didn't cross in time. So that long run from first base for Tom Glavine. Let's see if it costs him a little bit here, and a good move by Eddie Perez to go out and give him more time to catch his breath.
It'll be the 8, 9, and 1 spots in the Dodger order. Nelson Liriano, Hideo Nomo, and then Roger Cedeno. 2 runs, 4 hits, 1 error for the Braves. No runs, no hits, 1 error now for the Dodgers as we go to the top of the third. And that's what you do look for here, to see if that time on the base paths and that sprint toward home plate has any effect on Tom Glavine here in the third. It's a very warm day.
But a real veteran, old school move by Eddie Perez right there. Nice job.
Giving him a little more time. Liriano 227, a homer, 9 RBIs. Ball 1 up and away. One and 1 the count now on Nelson Liriano. Made stops in Toronto, Minnesota, Kansas City, Colorado, and Pittsburgh in his major league career. 2-1. And it's now 3-1 on the Dodgers second baseman. Pitcher Hideo Nomo on deck. If it wasn't for Nelson Liriano, Nolan Ryan may have had 8 no-hitters in his career. He broke up a no-hitter from Nolan Ryan in 1989 with 2 outs in the 9th inning with a triple. And he was a member of the Toronto Blue Jays. In the air, right center field. Got a little carry to it. Back goes Tucker. Still going back. Look out. He and Andrew almost collide out there, but Tucker stays with it, makes the catch. 1 down.
You see Glavine doing some bends at the waist as Tucker made the call for this ball. The one thing Andrew needs to do here on plays like this, Pete, is to try to stop and stay out of the way so that the right and left fielders don't see him out of the corner of their eye. He has a tendency to want to back up those players, but they know he has such great coverage. They're, I think, a little tentative about the way they go after it.
Hideo Nomo hitting 190 this year. 8 for 42. No homers or RBIs. 1 ball, no strikes.
I've got something here for you. Just came across the wire. The Padres have taken a 1-0 lead over Florida in the top of the second, and I'll give you 100 guesses as to how they got their first run, and I know you won't guess it.
1 and 2.
You can take 1 or 2 if you like.
Well, it had to be an unusual way. Inside the park home run.
No. Wally Joyner stole home.
Oh, man. No, you're right. They would have. I could have given you 200 tries and not come up with that one. 2 and 2 on Nomo. He has gotten progressively better as a hitter. Hit .091 his first year of the Dodgers, 133 last year, up to 190 this year.
Glavine got the first out on a long fly ball. He'd like to keep this inning as short as possible.
Strikes out Nomo for his second strikeout of the afternoon. 2 gone here in the third. Back we go now to the top of the order. And Roger Cedeno.
The one thing, back to Wally Joyner, you know, as great a season as Larry Walker and Tony Gwynn are having, Wally Joyner's a guy kind of like Jeff Blauser that you forget about because he's having a tremendous year. Joyner's hitting .339. Mike Piazza 3rd in the league in hitting, then Lofton, Blauser, and then Joyner.
Ball 1 to Cedeno.
Piazza right now the highest batting average for a career of any Los Angeles Dodger in history.
1 and 1. Yeah, he has been quite a story. Picked by the Dodgers in the draft almost as a favor to Tommy Lasorda's friend. And what a career he's had. There's a line drive left center field. That's going to be the first Dodger hit of the day. Cedeno reaching with a 2-out single. It'll bring up Wilton Guerrero.
Shortstop Wilton Guerrero.
Guerrero grounded out to Mark Lemke, who made a nice play in the first inning. Gets down a bunt, but foul. 0-1.
That wouldn't be a bad move either, and wouldn't have been a bad move by Liriano in the first batter, with Glavine breathing hard, a little bit tired, to come up and force him to try to cover a bunt, maybe cover first.
Yeah, you know what Tom Glavine would like to do most right here? Just get this inning over with and get back and cool off a little. 2 outs, runner first. The 0-1. Ground ball. Lemke again to his left. This time can't come up with it. Cedeno stops at second. Look at that throw by Tucker and that catch by Blauser as they tried to pick Cedeno off after a big turn at second. But the runners will be at first and second with 2 outs for Mondesi.
That was pretty heads-up play by both Tucker and Blauser. Jeff recognized that they were going to have a shot perhaps at picking him off after the turn at second. And the throw was a little bit off the mark, but Jeff able to haul it in.
Mondesi flied to right his first time up. Trying to extend a 9-game hitting streak. 1 ball, no strikes. There are your runners, Guerrero and Cedeno at first and second. In the air down the right field line and deep. Back goes Tucker toward the wall. This one is gone. Just made it inside the foul pole into the second row of seats. A 3-run homer for Raul Mondesi. His 21st homer of the year. And the Dodgers take a 3-2 lead.
That's the kind of home run you expect to see hit from a right-hander in Dodger Stadium with that short fence down the right field line. And the inning that Tom Glavine wanted to be a short one turns out to be a nightmare. An outside pitch. He went with it. And just barely fair. And into about the second or third row.
Just barely fair and just barely gone. But 3 runs are in. And here's Eric Karros now. Taking ball 1. He reached on the Blauser error his first time up. '21 homers, 56 RBIs now for Raul Mondesi.
3 homers in this series and 7 RBIs.
All this damage taking place after 2 are out in the inning. And the count now 3-0 on Eric Karros. And on 4 straight, Karros walks.
Something else, Pete, that didn't seem significant at the time, but when Guerrero got that base hit with Cedeno at first, Tommy, after he saw it get by Lemke, sprinted over to back up third in case there was a play over there. So there was some more running this inning that went for naught.
Batter will be Todd Zeile with Karros at first. Leo Mazzoni out.
What happens? It's early in the ball game. He hasn't thrown that many pitches, but he was at first base last inning for 1 batter. Blauser struck out, and then Tucker got the base hit. But on that sprint, it just takes you a minute to get your legs back. Not your wind. That's not really the problem. But your legs on a hot, muggy day get a little rubbery on you. And when you're pitching, of course, those are vitally important.
Here's Zeile, who flied to left his first time up. He takes a strike 0-1. And very often you see it in basketball when the legs begin to get a little rubbery. Free throws are being missed.
Right.
When a pitcher's legs begin to get a little rubbery, control seems to be the biggest problem.
You try to compensate in different ways.
Back up the middle. Lemke loves this one. Turns. Long throw to first. Got him. Good play by Mark Lemke. Finally puts an end to the top half of the 3rd inning. But Raul Mondesi's 3-run homer has turned it around. 3-2 Dodgers. We head to the bottom of the 3rd.
Before we get to the bottom half of the 3rd inning, let's take a look at the limited Office Depot scoreboard this afternoon. Pittsburgh at Philadelphia underway. No score. That's Schilling against Loaiza. San Diego got the stolen base from Wally Joyner of home plate. They lead Florida. And that's against Kevin Brown. Carl Everett has homered for the Mets to give them a lead. Everything else under the lights. So is the American League. But one interesting game. San Francisco and St. Louis have a wraparound game today, a 4-game series, but they're playing a night game, and the Giants have to go home after the game and play the Phillies tomorrow.
Here's Chipper Jones now leading off the bottom of the third, taking ball one from Nomo. Chipper popped to short in the first inning. 0 for 13 lifetime now against Nomo. 3-2 Dodgers on top. Count goes to 2-0. Nothing on Chipper Jones. Jones, McGriff, and Klesko do up here in the third.
How about Mr. Arabu pitching a little hissy fit last night?
Yeah. Gonna have to learn. It's not always going to be that easy.
Boy.
In the air down the left field line, but slicing up into the seats. 3-2. Have you heard anything, Joe, about the Dodgers possibly having some interest in Fernando coming back over here to fill the gap while some of these starting pitchers get healthy?
No.
Saw that the other day. I have not had it confirmed by anybody in the Dodgers, but kind of an interesting thought. He's just been released. There's a fly ball by Chipper out to left center field. Ashley had him shaded over that way. One down.
We're going to show you the time and the timing of the play at the plate and Tucker being tagged out at home plate to find out whether or not Glavine actually did score. Here's Tucker's slide. There's the tag. Tommy, oh gosh, 2 steps from home plate. A very good call by Terry Tata.
And as it turns out, that run a little bigger than it looked at the time.
Sure is.
As the Braves are now down by 1. McGriff walked his first time up. And takes ball 1 this time.
I saw Arabu last night throwing the ball behind Fernando Vina. And then the discussion at the mound. Who was he throwing the rosin bag at?
I don't know.
Was that at the umpire? Was that at the hitter? What was that all about?
The 1-1. Line left field coming on Ashley. This time he does get there and make the catch. Almost the exact same ball that Michael Tucker hit back in the second inning that Ashley tried to one-hop and had it skip by him. This time he gets there for out number 2.
One thing that has been consistent about the Dodgers in this series is the fact that their outfield plays extremely deep. Billy Ashley, Todd Hollinsworth when he was in there especially. So these low sinking liners give them a lot of trouble.
Here's Ryan Klesko, an RBI single his first time up. He takes ball 1. 2 gone, bases empty in the bottom of the third. Good split finger pitch from Nomo there. 1-1.
That's the best one he's thrown since the first inning.
Down the right field line, fair, headed toward the right field corner. Mondesi over to play to Karam. And it's a double for Ryan Klesko. He's 2 for 2. His 19th double of the year.
Well, maybe the Braves will wear out Mondesi having to sprint over into the corner and take a little steam off his bat.
How close is this corner to the corner in Dodger Stadium, Joe? Looks like it's very similar.
Well, the Dodger Stadium corner is more rounded. This is a little more angular, but the way it shoots off that one corner right there where the gate is for the grounds crew, it comes off like a bolt, and that was a pretty good recovery by Mondesi to keep it from getting by him.
Klesko down at second, 2 outs. Andrew Jones fly to center his first time up. Andrew's batting average got up to that 280 mark and has really stayed there. Hasn't varied more than 5 points either way from about the last 6 weeks. 0-2 the count.
One thing the Dodgers have done to him, though, this series specifically, is that they have thrown him some breaking balls early in the count to get ahead, and it's set up some other pitches that worked effectively later on, even fastballs inside, or yet another breaking ball that might be off the plate. That's why he's 2 for 11 rather in this series.
The 0-2. 1 ball, 2 strikes. That does it for Andrew Jones. That does it for the Braves in the third. The double by Ryan Klesko is all they get. That's the 4th strikeout for Nomo. Still 3-2 Dodgers heading to the 4th. As we go to the 4th inning, time for today's Aflac trivia question. Who holds the major league record for most consecutive scoreless innings pitched? We'll have the answer for you in the bottom half of the inning as Billy Ashley leads off for the Dodgers on top. Joe, 3-2.
I was just looking at the standings, Pete, and some of the winning streaks, and what surprised me, there's the longest winning streaks right now in Major League Baseball. 2 teams have 4-game streaks. One is the Mets, the other is the Minnesota Twins. Ashley takes a strike. He struck out his first time up.
Yeah, we've talked so much about the Marlins staying 5 games back in the National League East. The New York Mets have taken advantage of some of the Braves' losses. They're only 6.5 out now.
1-1 to Ashley, whose average dropped to 252 with the strikeout. And over in that American League Central, as good as the Cleveland Indians are, they really haven't run off and left everybody over there. 1-2, big swing, but it comes up empty. The White Sox 4.5 back, the Milwaukee Brewers 7 back, and the Twins, who are 8 games under 500 and basically perform in anonymity. You barely hear much about the Minnesota Twins, but they're only 9.5 out. Oh, good pitch. Didn't get the call. It's 2-2.
Talking about performing in anonymity as you look at this pitch again. Just off the corner. One member of that Minnesota Twins pitching staff having a great year, and nobody's talking about him.
Out of play.
Brad Radke, winning pitcher last night. He's 13-5 now in the year.
I watched some of the highlights of that game. He made some great pitches yesterday to the heart of that A's lineup and really handled Mark McGwire and Jose Canseco. The 2-2 pitch again. Got him swinging, or did he? No, Eddie couldn't hang on to it. Looked like it got Eddie on the foot.
They ought to put together one of those. You ever remember those charts they used to put together on Mickey Mantle, which show all the different injuries he had during his career and all the different operations he had had? They ought to just put a chart together. Eddie Perez, all the different places he's been hit by foul balls off the bat of opposing hitters and off his own bat on this homestand.
I don't think they'd want to mark that last one, though.
No.
Struck him out anyway. Ashley down on strikes, looking for the 2nd time.
And the strikeouts continue to pile up for Billy Ashley. 36 strikeouts now and 108 at bats. That's exactly 1 every 3 times up.
As big as he is, and here's Tom Prince with 1 out. He grounded at third his first time up. As big as Billy Ashley is, 6'7", and that's a long drive. If it's fair, it's big trouble, but foul into the bullpen. Tom Prince golfed one and almost hit it out of here. But you'd think Ashley would be right up on top of the plate, challenging you to pitch inside.
Another look at this drive by Tom Prince, who's had a very interesting career. He's been in the major leagues every year since 1987, but only one of those years, 1993, did he spend the entire season in the major league. He has been back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, several organizations.
1-1 the count. Did a good job yesterday. Hit that ball that Klesko couldn't come up with in left field. Almost hit it out. 2-1. Drove in a run and scored a run and didn't start the game yesterday. Two. I was telling Don yesterday that the Dodgers are a little bit like the Astros in that they can afford to carry 2 catchers, Pete, because they've got a built-in backup. The Dodgers do in Todd Zeile. The Astros do in Craig Biggio. Off the thumbs. Who's going to take it? Fred McGriff calls for it. He has it. 2 down.
And Tom Glavine really took charge on that one. As soon as that ball was up in the air, Glavine sprinted off the mound and was hollering Fred McGriff. Look at Glavine right there in the picture, quarterbacking this one. No mix-up when your pitcher takes over like that.
No. Nelson Liriano flied to right. Hit the ball hard. But Michael Tucker made a nice play. Liriano was 2 for 4 yesterday. He is a switch hitter and came in hitting only .125 right-handed, but only 8 at bats. He was 1 for 8, now 1 for 9. Down the line, foul territory. Tucker has room and makes the catch right up against the wall. Nice play. Michael Tucker has nailed Liriano twice today. 1, 2, 3 go the Dodgers. To the bottom of the 4th we go, and Los Angeles leads 3-2.
Orel Hershiser back in 1988 broke another Dodger, Don Drysdale's record. Bill Simmons has got this down pretty good. Always starts out the week on Monday just like those crossword puzzle people. Makes the question just a little bit easier. They get tougher as the week goes on.
I think that sign means 4 in the 4th for the Braves here. We'll see what happens. Eddie Perez, Mark Lemke, and Tom Glavine. Eddie got an inning started in the 2nd with a walk. Eventually scored on a base hit by Michael Tucker. But the Braves could have had 2, except Tucker was thrown out at 3rd for the 3rd out of the inning before Glavine could score. Eddie's 1 for 6 in the series.
A lot of pitches thrown. We'll see if he can last very long in this game.
0-2.
That usually catches up with a pitcher 5th or 6th inning.
Eddie stays alive. Hit a pretty good split finger pitch. What's the climate like in the midsummer in Japan? Does anybody know? Does it get hot over there?
I think they have their warm weather, but I don't think they have the consistent heat that you have over here, especially in the South and even in Southern California. You get a lot of warm days.
And it's humid. Fastball fought off. Hideo is from Osaka, Japan. Again, the 0-2 pitch. Change up, one-handed deep down the left field line, but still foul. I know the Tokyo Giants have a dome.
Yeah, they play inside the dome.
I don't know if there are any other teams that use that facility, but I know the Giants have an indoor ballpark.
Had a chance to go over there this past winter. And the one interesting thing about that dome, it's very similar to all the domes over here. The Astrodome especially very similar to the Tokyo Dome.
That too will reach the seats, but foul. Ashley over to have a look, but it's still 0-2.
But one real difference that I noticed in the just the look of the ballpark over in Tokyo compared to what you see over here, the dugouts over there are not nearly as long as the dugouts here, but they're deep, and they have 3 levels, 3 level dugouts, 3 different rows. But from one end to the other, very short.
I wonder if it's kind of like the Braves bullpen. You're allowed to sit in certain areas. Ned Yost cracked me up yesterday telling me about that. Another 0-2 pitch, hammered foul. Eddie Perez battling hard. Ned Yost talking about the newcomers, the guys in the bullpen. He said, you know, he said we told them where they could and couldn't sit, and they were very happy with wherever we told them they could sit.
Well, when it's your first time up in the big leagues, you do as you're told.
And by the way, Ned Yost wants to say hello and wish some get well wishes to his friend Wayne Hughes back in Jackson, Mississippi, who's in the hospital. Ned wanted you to know he's thinking about you, Wayne. 0-2 to Perez. Foul, another one back. Attaway, Eddie, make him work.
Tell you what, the Braves are flying up to Chicago after the game, and I think if those 3 newcomers were told they had to sit all 3 seats next to each other, they'd do it.
Yeah. Boy, are they in for a treat today, huh? Whew. Finally wasted one outside. 1-2.
Well, this is going to be more telling on Nomo, though. He's thrown him 9 pitches and is up to 74 pitches now in the afternoon already. Nobody out in the 4th inning.
And a deep breath before this pitch. Hard hit, base hit. Boy, he earned that one. And gets a good response from the crowd. And a good start to the Braves' 4th inning. Nomo got tired of trying to trick him. And Perez connects.
That was a great at bat. He had a count of 0-2 on him. He fouled off 6 pitches. Then took a ball, then gets another strike and deposits this one into left field.
Went out and got a pitch too. Fortunately for Eddie, it was up a little bit. And able to hook it in between the third baseman and shortstop. Lemke struck out his first time up. He hits one foul into the seats. This would be, at least for a pitch or two, a time with Nomo where you might try to pull the ball and try to pull one in the hole with first baseman holding Perez on. Bobby Dews coaching at third, Pat Corrales at first. One and one. That's a lot of pitches. Trying to get an out, taking almost 5 pitches per out. 2-1 to Lemke.
Yeah, pitchers love those quick outs where they can throw one pitch, get a hitter out, and almost only had one of those today. Andrew Jones in the 1st inning.
He has tried to improve his delivery to the plate to make it a little bit shorter, but in the process he's committed 4 balks. Lined off the glove of Liriano, else that would have been a double play. Eddie had already taken a couple of steps towards second, and Liriano could have doubled him up easily, but that ball was hooking and Liriano couldn't come up with it, and Lemke does indeed pull the ball. Runners at first and second and nobody out.
This would have been a double play because Perez broke from the bag on contact, but Liriano unable quite to come up with it. There you see how far off the bag Perez is. He would never have gotten back to first had Liriano caught that ball. So a break for the Braves there. Base hit for Lemke. Nobody out.
And a bunt situation for Tom Glavine. He bunted one foul, trying to move Perez to second base in the 2nd inning, and then Bobby Cox changed the sign, put on a hit and run, and Glavine executed beautifully with a base hit to left field. 2 on and nobody out, and Karros comes in about 60 feet from the plate. Glavine will want to bunt this toward third, but bunts it right out in front of the plate, and Tom Prince, does he get him? Yeah, Zeal was trying to find the bag and must have. And Glavine's bunt never made it to the grass. Put out goes 2-5. It'll be a fielder's choice for Glavine.
Leads the league in sacrifice bunts, but didn't get this one out far enough. Zeal able to find the bag. In fact, his foot was right on top of the bag. Kind of dangerous with the runner sliding in there, but he was uninjured. And the tough part of it is Tom Glavine has to spend some more time out in the base paths.
Yeah, that's a good point. Lemke down at second base, and Blauser up. He has fanned twice, once looking, once swinging. Goes to right field. That's trouble. Mondesi can't get it. He'll cut it off before it gets to the wall, but Lemke racing to the plate. He'll tie it, and Glavine pulls up short at third base. He's hurt. Tom Glavine, before he ever got to third base, came up limping.
And Jeff Porter on his way out now. I thought, Joe, when the
Boy, this crowd got quiet, didn't it?
Yes, it did. I thought on the replay that we looked at back in the second inning when Tom Glavine was coming home that he pulled up a little bit as he got toward home plate there. Wasn't going quite as hard as we've seen Tom Glavine run. And maybe he felt something, maybe even as back far as the second inning. But he obviously felt something here.
Well, the double by Blauser ties it, but I mean, this crowd was cheering wildly, and as soon as they saw Glavine at third base bent over it, they became deathly quiet.
Let's go back to the second inning when Tom Glavine was unable to score before Michael Tucker was thrown out at third. Watch him coming around third and see if you don't notice him slowing up just a little. Right about there. Not quite as hard as he came around the bag at third. Like maybe he was feeling a little tug or something. It looks like he's going to be all right.
Well, he was reaching over, grabbing his right toe, almost like you would try to stretch your leg out if you had a cramp. But you know the way Bobby protects his pitchers, if he felt that there was anything serious about it, he'd be out of the ball game. Jeff Blauser picks up his 46th RBI, 25 doubles on the year, and Michael Tucker with another RBI opportunity. Second and third, one out. Karros plays in at first. Nice play by Prince. That saved a run.
Glavine continues to stretch out that leg.
Well, two things. You go back to the bunt. You think he wouldn't be out there if he'd gotten the bunt down. 2 runs would be in on the double instead of 1. Good fastball at the knees. 1-1 the count. How about this? Thanks to CNN, we've got some weather conditions at 2 in the morning. Another nice stop by Prince, and it's 2-1 at 2 in the morning, mind you, on Tuesday, July 22nd. It's 77 degrees with 83% humidity.
Wow.
At 2 in the morning. And the forecast is for it to get up to 91 degrees, and for the next couple of days 89 will be the high.
With 80% humidity? Man.
So there you go. It does get a little warm. Foul back by Tucker to count even at 2-2. The folks at CNN and everybody here helping. Two and two the count. Off the end of the bat. Michael way out in front of that one. He hit that right off the end of the bat like a cue shot.
86 pitches on the day now for Nomo. Wow. And only 1 out in the 4th inning.
He's a big guy, 6'2", 210, but that'll take its toll, especially with that exaggerated wind up and stretch that he uses. Oh boy. Michael didn't think so, but he's down on strikes, and that's a huge strikeout for Nomo. His 5th of the day.
Well, what did you think?
Split finger pitch. Started high. I think that might have been why he gave up on it, but it wasn't high. If it had the plate, it was a strike. And it's up to Chipper Jones. Let's see if they pitch to him. A tie game. The Braves about hit him 8-3, but the 3-run homer by Mondesi accounting for all the Dodger runs. Good swing by Chipper. 0-1. He has popped up, flying to left. Glavine appears to be okay for the moment at third base. It's also kind of twisting the trunk of his body like his back might have tightened up too, Pete. 1-1.
Well, he was doing some toe touch stretches between pitches during the Michael Tucker at bat, so maybe that is part of the problem.
One and one the count. Another split finger pitch and a good one, but Chipper didn't like it. It's 1-2.
Chipper 0 for 14 lifetime against Nomo. Now he finds himself in a hole on a pitch that looked a little low.
Boy, he's got that split finger pitch dancing here, though, the last couple of batters. They move the target inside again like they did on Tucker. But way upstairs, 2-2.
That's a lot of work for 4 innings.
Prince wants to talk it over with him. The Braves, when they led with that run in the first inning, was the first time they had a lead in this series since the end of game 1. Dodgers claimed the lead, and the Braves have fought back on the double by Blauser. Prince may want to remind Nomo here of what his idea is with respect to Chipper and first base being open. Just to remind him that they don't have to give in to Jones, even though Fred McGriff is the on-deck hitter. Braves have 3 hits in the inning, but only 1 run. Got him upstairs. They got him to chase a high, hard one, and Nomo was out of the inning, having allowed only 1 run on the 3 hits. 2 left. We go to the 5th, a 3-3 tie.
Board for today. National League team earned run average. You see Atlanta on top. You see LA third. But look at the other 3 clubs, and we'll tell you something about St. Louis, Florida, and Houston. Beginning July 31st, the Braves have 19 out of 21 games against St. Louis, Florida, and Houston. Bobby Cox is already well aware of that, saying that's going to be the toughest stretch of pitching the Braves face all season long.
Yeah, runs will be at a premium. And of course, these 4 games, the Dodgers have pitched quite well also. Hideo Nomo will lead off the inning. A tie game will be followed by Roger Cedeno and Wilton Guerrero. If it is Glavin's back that's tightened up on him a little bit, we'll keep an eye on him to see if he's able to follow through or if he shortens up his delivery. One ball, 1 strike.
Tommy's got that hockey mentality, though. It's going to take a lot more than a little twinge or a little cramp to get him out of action.
Look out. Broken bat grounder to McGriff. The head of the bat almost got Glavin. 1 out.
Sawed him off. As the bat flies out toward the mound, Glavin breaking from the mound slowed up considerably as he saw McGriff was going to take it himself. I think it's still bothering him, Joe.
I do too. The second pitch he threw Nomo, the one he fouled back, was the one to me that looked like he didn't finish the pitch at all. Let's see if Cedeno on the top of the order, if they try to take advantage of Tommy by bunting on him. Cedeno has a base hit in 2 trips and just scored a run. Chipper has closed up a little at third base, and McGriff about even with the bag at first, but I think I would have to find out if he could cover first or not. I don't think he had bunting on his mind. 1-1. Like Eddie Perez, Cedeno, a native of Venezuela. The 1-1 pitch. Outside. I was curious when he went out to the mound to see how he bent over to pick up the baseball. He put his left hand on his knee when he reached down with his glove to pick the baseball up. That had pretty good stuff on it. 2-2. fastball. 3-2. Again, he needs a short inning. Good pitch, but he lost him. A 1-out walk to the leadoff batter, and that'll bring up Guerrero, who singled and scored a run in the 3rd inning. Cedeno and Guerrero went back-to-back with base hits in the 3rd inning after 2 were out, and then Mondesi hit a home run right down the right field line. That's the 2nd walk issued by Glavine. No activity in the Braves bullpen. I don't know, Pete. Maybe I'm trying to look for too much in his delivery, but it just seems like he's
not
finishing.
extending himself, not finishing the delivery like he normally does. Kind of short stepping.
Cedeno is 8 out of 9 in stolen bases. Tall and thin, and he gets a good jump, has long strides. In the hole, a good piece of hitting by Guerrero. Another hit. Cedeno's going to try for 3rd. Tucker's throw to 3rd base. Gets by Chipper. Glavine had to back up, and he is there to keep him from scoring. But on the throw down to 2nd goes Guerrero. And wouldn't you know it, I mean, here's Tommy trying to get through the inning. And on the first batter with the pitcher, he had to bolt off the mound. Thought he might have to cover first, and now has to back up 3rd again.
It's almost as if any potential situation where Tom Glavine may be asked to run is coming forth in these last 2 innings, whether it's on base as a base runner or as a defensive player. The first hitter up in this inning, Hideo Nomo, a ground ball to first. Glavine had to break toward first base. Now the throw to 3rd by Michael Tucker. Glavine had to back up, get over behind 3rd. He's just not getting any breaks at all.
No, not a one. And here's a guy that has hurt him the worst. They're going to put him on, and I don't blame him. Mondesi has torn the Braves up in this series. Homered in the 3rd, line to right in the 1st. They're going to load him up and pitch to Karros with 1 out. We're tied at 3 in the top of the 5th inning. And if you just joined us, Tom Glavine ran from 1st to 3rd last inning on a double by Jeff Blauser and came up limping into 3rd base. We're not sure if it was his leg or if it might have been his lower back that bothered him, but he is struggling here in the top of the 5th. Mondesi to 1st, loads him up for Karros, aboard on an error in the 2nd inning, walked in the 3rd.
That is a number that is not sitting too well with Bobby Cox right now. Bobby very unhappy with the Braves defense in the game yesterday.
And of the errors that have been made in this series, already 6 runs have scored. We'll wait to see what happens with Guerrero. Bases loaded, 1 out. Good fastball, swing and a miss.
All season long, Joe, the Braves have ranked either 1st or 2nd in the league in hitting. They have stayed at the top of the league in pitching all season long, and for the most part, as you look at the Braves bullpen, Mike Cather now begins to throw. For the most part of the season, the Braves were either 3rd or 4th in defense. They have dropped to 10th in defense over this last 10-12 game stretch.
On the ground, might be 2. There's 1. He's out of the inning. Tom Glavine does it again. He may not be 100%, but when the guy needs to make a pitch and when he needs the outs, he makes them. He's a tough cookie. We go to the bottom of the 5th, still tied at 3.
Checking with Tommy Glavine to see if he's all right. We still don't have any idea as to what his injury was, but he came up hurting a little bit.
Tell you what, if you folks at home want to watch a picture of poise and courage, watch every time Tom Glavine goes out there. It's obvious he is not 100%. He doesn't have his greatest stuff today, but what he is doing is he's giving the Braves every opportunity to win this ballgame. The last inning could have been a blowout inning. walk, a hit, an error that could have been very costly, but he doesn't lose his cool. He always gives you a chance to win, and that's why he is the second winningest pitcher for the last 5 or 6 years.
And Nomo gets ready to pitch to McGriff here in the bottom of the 5th. And he fouls it back. It's 0-1. Nomo showed you a little something, too, in a big trouble spot in the 4th, striking out Tucker and Chipper Jones. 3-3 our score in the 5th. Double dip in Chicago tomorrow. Down the left field line, Ashley a long run. He'll never get there. It's in the seats, and it's 0-2. The 0-2 pitch. Splitter missed low, a ball and 2 strikes. Don had, I think, the best line I've heard about Nomo over on radio. He said every time he winds up, Don feels like he needs a chiropractor.
He hurts me just watching him.
The 1-2. Low again. He was able to lay off the split finger.
You have to be a good athlete. You have to be very strong, and you have to be very agile and coordinated to pitch the way he does. There are so many working parts that can go wrong.
2-2. Fastball ripped into right field. Mondesi on the run. He can't get there. Fred limps around first. Might have a play at second. They throw late. If he turns and throws quickly, they might have him because of that hamstring problem. He tried to sneak a fastball by McGriff and did not live to tell about it. And there's the go-ahead run in scoring position with nobody out.
He wants to go down and away, but he doesn't get it down and away. He gets it down and out over the plate, and McGriff rips it. If there is communication between the shortstop and the second baseman, they might have a shot. Mondesi comes up, hits the cutoff man. You see McGriff there running on about 4 of the 6 cylinders. You know he's not 100%, but right about here, the throw comes to second. There is no quick turn and throw. If Guerrero had been on top of it, they might have had him.
Outside to Klesko, 1 ball, no strikes. Philadelphia's Kurt Schilling, through 5 innings, has 12 strikeouts against Pittsburgh today. 12 out of the 15 outs he's gotten have been on strikes. Klesko has had a good day. 2 out of 2, a single, a double, an RBI. On the outside corner, it's 1-1. Klesko, Andrew Jones, and Eddie Perez with a chance to give Atlanta the lead here. The 1-1 pitch. Popped up. That will not get the runner to third either. Ashley waits and takes 1 away. That hurt. Funny thing about McGriff, in his first 72 games, he had 6 doubles. In his last 23, he's hit 9 doubles. And I still say he's going to left field more since he got hurt.
And I think he's hitting the ball harder. I think he is. His swing has less movement in it. It seems to be more compact and more stable at the plate. And I think he's driving the ball more. He had a stretch there in about 70 ball games, Skip, where I think he had less than 20 extra base hits.
Andrew Jones, the batter, the runner still at second. Now there's 1 out. Grounded to third. Funny hop, but Zeal comes up nicely and guns him down. 2 away. Chad Fox begins to throw in the Atlanta bullpen. That's not good news.
Now, throwing right now, it would lead you to believe that that might be the end of the day for Tom Glavine, because normally, if your starting pitcher is going to go back out there, then the guys in the bullpen sit down now.
Well, he's returned to the dugout. So we'll have to wait and see.
Might be one of those things where they're going to let him go out and test it, and if he can't do it, then they don't want to have to bring Fox in to warm up on the mound.
That's one of those mystery injuries. I mean, you know he's not faking it, but we can't figure out what happened and when it happened. Outside, 1 ball, no strikes. Padres lead Florida 3-0 after 4. All the scores upcoming on the award-winning Delta scoreboard. 2-0 the count. Runner still at second with 2 out. And Fred really hampered by that hamstring. It's almost going to take an extra base hit to score it. Both teams have had chances to break this game open, but neither has been able to close the deal. Into the dirt. 3 balls, no strikes.
That's got to be 7 or 8 times Prince has saved a base on those balls in the dirt. That gives you so much confidence if you're a pitcher like Nomo or any pitcher who's got a breaking pitch that you want to bust down low. Curveball, doesn't matter. To have a guy back there that will sacrifice himself and make the play. Eddie Perez does it well, but Tom Prince, you like him, don't you?
Yeah, he's the catcher still known as Prince. 3-0 pitch. On 4 straight, he walked him. It's up to Mark Lemke. The Lemmer has a single and a strikeout on the day. A perfect day now for Eddie Perez. A walk, a single, and now another walk. Third walk of the day for Nomo. Lemke stands in there. A double dip in Chicago tomorrow. A lot of pitches and a lot of balls. There's a strike. 1-1.
Yeah, more out of the strike zone than into the strike zone. Isn't that the way it goes? You get a guy like Lemke, you know he's throwing it all over the park. You settle in there, get ready to look for something. Good pitch to hit, and he breaks you one, a perfect one on the outside corner.
And he's quickly out in front of Mark. 0-2. Keith Lockhart would pinch hit next if we get that far. That might be part of this here. But ordinarily in the 5th inning, you're not taking Tom Glavine out of a game if he's 100% physical with the score tied. The 0-2. A little chopper down the first baseline. Nomo has it, and the inning is over. So Nomo gets out of more trouble. The Braves leave 2 more. They've left 9 men already in this game. At the end of 5, all tied 3-3. In his leg, near his hamstring area. So we'll just have to keep an eye on him as things go on. Todd Zeile leads off the 6th inning. Don Sutton, Skip Carey with you, and the first pitch is outside. A doubleheader tomorrow starts at 1 o'clock Eastern time. Greg Maddux and Denny Nagel against Jeremy Gonzalez and Terry Mulholland, if Terry Mulholland's still a Cub. Well, the trade rumors swirl about him. 1-1 the count.
It's a game that we have to make up because the morning we woke up and looked outside and there was a world of white in Chicago. Yes. Snow everywhere.
2 balls, 1 strike. Leo and Bobby keeping a close eye on Glavine here. Well, he looks to me like he's throwing just like he always throws.
Yeah, but then again, isn't that Tom Glavine? I think unless there was a bone sticking through, you would not know if he were hurt. He is one of the gutsiest pitchers you will ever find. Always gives you a chance to win. That's the pitcher's job. Give you a chance to win.
The 2-2 just missed. Full count, 3-2.
And it would be nice. I know the whole idea is to make it a team sport, to give your team a chance to win. But Tom Glavine could get a win today. It would be nice. It'd be a milestone for him. He's trying to win his 150th today. 149 career wins coming to this.
Strike 3 called. Zeile was on his way to first. He thought it was low and away. But Terry Tata called him out, and Tata takes off the mask, and they exchange pleasantries.
Well, Terry Tata is known as a pitcher's umpire. It is hot down there. Tempers are short. But this isn't the first time he has rung up a Dodger or a Brave on one close. And over we saw Tom Glavine throw him in the neighborhood like this. Give half of that strike out there to Eddie Perez. Boy, he steals a few strikes.
Todd Zeile had some justification in his remarks. Ashley has been called out twice. 1 ball, no strikes, the count to him. But this guy can hurt you. He's got awesome power. 2-0. Glavine falls behind. 2 tomorrow in Chicago, a day game on Wednesday, off on Thursday in Cincinnati, Friday night, Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon in Cincy. Strike to Ashley makes it 2-1. From the cleanup man on down, the Dodgers are 0-13 today. 0-4-13, I should say. Grounded to short. Blauser has it. Hop, skip, and throw. 2 out. Here's Tom Prince, who just missed a home run his last time. Hit it foul down the left field line. And then popped to first.
You know, it shouldn't surprise you to see arguments with Terry Tata. There have been 10 strikeouts combined by Nomo and Glavine. 6 of them have been called. When you get 60% of your strikeouts as called strikeouts, you're going to get some arguments.
Glav delivers, and Prince corks one to center. Andrew Jones makes the catch, makes it look easy. And the inning is quickly over. 1, 2, 3, nothing doing. We'll see if they pinch hit for Glavine here. Go to the bottom of the 6th. 3-3 our score. Is going to come out and hit for him. Tommy, 92 pitches today, and you can see him limping a little bit. He's hurting, and not a happy camper as he heads toward the clubhouse and a date with an ice bag, I would guess.
Yeah, you don't want to see anybody hurt, but what you would like to see, since it's obvious something is wrong, is the best bad news you can get. And the fact that it would have been a cramp would be the best bad news you could get. I'll tell you what it looked like to me. When he hit home plate, it looked like he may have jammed his right heel. And I was certainly hoping that wasn't the case, or a pulled hamstring. A cramp you can work through, live with, and remedy. Some of the other things would take a little while.
I'll tell you what, our crew is really gambling today, because I know they had no idea what that banner said in Japanese. Let's hope it said Hideo Nomo. If not, we apologize. And Keith Lockhart leads off the bottom of the 6th.
Some of the other scores: San Diego leads Florida, and Cincinnati by 1 over New York. That's all the afternoon activity.
And our award-winning Delta scoreboard is still coming up in just a few minutes. 0-1 the count to Lockhart, hitting .236, 3 homers, 21 RBI. Hits that one into right field. Mondesi is there and puts it away. 1 down. Chad Fox will come on to pitch for Atlanta. You see him laboring in the bullpen. Here's Jeff Blauser, who has struck out twice but has also doubled in a run. And Michael Tucker, who's had a busy day, moves on deck. Nomo. Breaking ball of beauty, 0-1. Tommy Gregg leading the International League in hitting at .355. Ground ball to short should be easy. Wilton Guerrero up to first just in time. 2 down. So 2 are gone quickly and quietly in the Atlanta 6th. Here's Tucker, 2 for 3.
Tommy has a good year this year. I have a feeling you're going to see him playing with the expansion next year. There will be 50 more jobs. I have a feeling you're going to see him playing in the big leagues for somebody, either before this year's over or next year.
He would probably be playing for the Atlanta Braves if he were a right-hand hitter having that kind of year. But with Keith Lockhart doing such a great job off the Atlanta bench, the need for a left-hand hitter is not so great. But if somebody wants him bad enough, John Sherrill's always glad to listen. Little chopper past the mound. That should be easy. And it is, and the inning is over. 1, 2, 3. Nomo's easiest inning of the game. The first time the Braves have gone in order at the end of 6. We're all tied. It's 3-3. See that difference in hits? That's frustrating for the Atlanta team. Chad Fox is on to pitch. Glavine, 6 innings, 4 hits, 3 runs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts, and a home run. A 3-run blast by Raul Mondesi. So Fox gets the call, and Nelson Liriano will turn around and hit left-handed. Here's the deal on ticket availability for the upcoming games for the Braves. When the Cubs come in on the 28th, that's a week from today, the 29th and the 30th. 4,000 left for Monday, 6,000 for Tuesday, 4,000 for Wednesday. On August 6th, the Cardinals in for 2, 4,500 on the 6th, 5,000 on the 7th. Then the Marlins come in for 4, standing room only for Friday and Saturday, singles only on Sunday, 5,000 left for Monday. And remember, standing room tickets go on sale after all the other tickets are sold, and Skyline $1 tickets go on sale 3 hours before game time.
And I think on the Skyline and the standing room, you must immediately go into the park, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Sort of a, here's the first pitch, a strike. Liriano tried to stop his swing, could not. Sort of a scalper avoidance system. Strike over the outside corner. I really worry about those scalpers. I really do. Up on Fulton Street, the way they dash out into the traffic, somebody's going to get hurt. The 0-2, low and outside, a ball and 2 strikes. Liriano hitting .241 left-handed coming into the day, only .125 right-handed. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Chad Fox out of the Cincinnati organization. The 2-2. Fastball popped him up. Short right center. Lemke battles for it. Now Andrew Jones calls everybody off and makes the catch, 1 away. Liriano pops out, 1 away, and Brett Butler is going to hit for Nomo. The hot weather taking its toll here. He'll get a great hand unless it's in the playoffs. This apparently the last game Brett will ever play in Atlanta. And he gets a great round of applause, as he so justly deserves. Scott Radinsky in the bullpen for the Dodgers. Our bullpen is quiet at the moment. Butler stands in and Fox delivers outside. Well, you better throw this guy strikes. He knows the strike zone as well as anybody. Took a shot at left field, as he so often does, and fouls it off. Every now and then he'll turn on one and pull it down the line.
We have talked before about what makes a good leadoff hitter. Right there are some numbers that make a good leadoff hitter. What you want is a guy at the top, not necessarily a guy who's going to steal you 50 or 60 bases, but who can ignite things, who can get on base, and Butler has made a career out of doing that.
Lauser unloads and gets him by a step 2 down. So Butler is retired and Roger Cedeno is the batter. Cedeno has singled, walked, and flied to center. I think San Diego still has Florida shut out 3-0 in the 6th. It's hard to tell. There's a little problem with the scoreboard up there. Cedeno turns around and hits left-handed against the right-hander. He's a better hitter from the other side. 259 left-handed, 279 right-handed.
Did you get it confirmed now how San Diego scored that first run?
I swear it's true. Wally Joyner stole home.
Left-handed hitting first baseman, Redan High School, Wally Joyner.
Your former teammate.
Golfing buddy, Wally Joyner. Stole home.
Outside, 2 balls and a strike. I imagine the Marlins will be out early tomorrow.
Yeah.
Chad Fox delivers, fouled away.
Next
opponents 2 for 17 against this Fox. No walks in 5 innings.
That's one of the things that's been very impressive about him. That 3-for-3 swap, 3 going to Richmond and 3 coming up here. Unfortunately, if you want to look at it that way, for the 3 in Richmond, all 6 have pitched well.
And Fox pitches well here in the 7th, records his first strikeout. Time for the old 7th inning stretch. We go to the bottom half. All tied, 3-3.
Barrymore stars as a wild young girl who does whatever she can to become a permanent member of her newfound family. The movie is called Poison Ivy. It's part of Movies to Die For. That's tonight, beginning at 8:05 here at Superstation. I've seen that. She's a sick puppy in this movie.
What's the name of the movie?
Poison Ivy. She's wacko in this one.
Life imitates art? No, of course not. We go to the bottom half of the 7th inning. Prince to the mound to talk to the new twirler, Scott Radinsky. Nomo, 6 innings, 9 hits, 3 runs, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. And you see the good numbers on Radinsky. Is the man who beat Hodgkin's disease, missed a year because of that ailment, and is pitching very, very effectively for Los Angeles.
One of the reasons the Dodgers wanted him in here is to get Chipper Jones over in the right-handed batter's box and to face McGriff and Klesko, and he is nasty on left-handers.
The Marlins are going to make another deal, we understand, after the game. I wonder if Jeff Conine is going somewhere. The pitch is a strike to Chipper. Jones 0 for 3, a pop to short, a fly to left, a strikeout. And a grounder to short. Wilton Guerrero up and firing, 1 out. So after a lot of action in the first few innings, things are slowing down here. Braves have left 9 runners aboard. They left them aboard in the first 5 innings. Dodgers have left just 4. Fred McGriff, a walk, a line out, and a double. They shaded, when this series started, they shaded him around toward right. Now they shade him around toward left. And he hits one into deep center field. Back goes Cedeno to the wall. It's gone. 400 feet away and straightaway center, and Atlanta has the lead. Only the 3rd home run ball thrown by Radinsky this year. 4-3 Atlanta.
Only the second one allowed to a left-hander. He had been tough on him, but that ball stayed right down the middle for McGriff. I know you commented on it earlier, and I believe it too, that you never like to see anybody not 100%, but he is a much calmer in the batter's box, and I think Fred is hitting better since he got a little bit injured.
Ryan Klesko tried to duplicate that shot, but he came up empty, 0-1. For Fred, number 13, number 58 in the RBI department. And he's sneaking ever closer to the 300 mark.
Broke a bad string from Griff against Radinsky.
Right, 0 for 7 against him until that circuit clout. San Diego now 4-0 over Florida. So the Braves, if they can hang on here, have a pretty good chance of being 6 games up as they hit the road. One and 2 the count. Two balls, 2 strikes. Andrew Jones on deck. 4-3 Atlanta, now our score. And if Atlanta can hang on, Chad Fox with a chance for his first win. Got him and he knew it. Klesko called out on strikes, 2 down. First strikeout for Radinsky. Slight strain in the right hamstring is the story on Glavine. He may not even miss a start with that. We'll have to wait and see.
Probably the wise thing, and if you ask Tom, he'll probably tell you he could have pitched longer, but the wise thing, as long as it's just a strain right now, is to get him out. Get him out of there and get some treatment right away.
Trouble with those hamstring things is, boy, it's hard to make them go away.
Yep.
Andrew Jones is the batter. He is looking for his first hit. He's 0 for 3. Glenn Diamond, our producer today. A couple of directors in the truck, Lonnie Dale and Gary Lehman. Gary making his debut on Braves baseball. And under the tutelage of Lonnie and Glenn, how could he possibly go wrong? 1-1 the count. 424 feet. The tail of the tape on McGriff. If that went 424, Andrew Jones didn't go 444.
No.
I don't know.
Put a 5 in front of that and I'd buy it.
That was about it. About 540, 550.
It was crushed.
Two balls and a strike. Look out. 3-1. Eddie Perez waits on deck. There are 2 out in the inning. They walked him. Andrews aboard with 2 out. Might be doing some running here. Radinsky issues his first walk. And Eddie Perez, the batter. Andrew with 15 stolen bases. He might try to get himself in the scoring position here. There he goes. Hit and run, and he fouled it off 0-1. Took a shot at right field, but could only foul it away.
I'm not so sure that was as much a hit and run as it was Eddie had a pitch to handle, because normally on a hit and run, the runner will sneak a peek over his shoulder. And Andrew Jones had a running jump on that. He was just intent on stealing.
See if they go over there now. Yep. Andrew tiptoes away from the bag. Eric Karras holds the runner aboard. Radinsky bluffs the throw, which you can do as long as you're not in contact with the rubber. The stretch and the pitch. Swung ground ball to short, should be out of the inning. Guerrero to second, and the inning comes to a close, but the Braves get a run on the McGriff homer, the only hit in the inning. They leave a batter, and we go to the 8th inning with Atlanta on top by a score of 4-3.
Schilling and lead at 3-2. Top of the 7th inning. San Diego doing something not many other people can do. They've scored 4 off Kevin Brown. Bottom of the 6th, they lead at 4-1. The only other game this afternoon, the Mets with 2 in the bottom of the 6th. Everett's home run, his 10th. They've taken a 3-2 lead over Cincinnati, and everything else taking place under the lights. That's your Delta scoreboard.
We go to the 8th inning here. Wilton Guerrero will lead it off. Braves on top 4-3. Guerrero has had a good day. A couple of singles, a run scored. 2 out of 3. He had a weak swing at that. Eddie Perez got tagged again. It's 0-1. Mike Mordecai came out to warm up the pitcher, trying to help out. And a sinker hit him right on the foot, and he limped off, and I don't know if he'll be back to help out anymore. 0-2 the count.
Remember a couple weekends ago, John Charles and Bobby Cox said we're going to make some changes in the bullpen. Let's see what it does. We want some immediate response now. We want a message to be sent.
Into right field. Tucker's there. 1 out.
That's 4 in a row set down by Fox, and I think the message has been sent, because since they revamped that bullpen, here's what's happened in the last 9 games. Particularly impressive, Skip, I think. Strikeouts, almost 1 an inning. Earned run average is down, and they're not hitting a thing off this Braves bullpen for the last 10 days.
Raul Mondesi, the batter, his 3-run homer has plated all the Dodger runs. Cather again throwing in the Atlanta bullpen, and I guess Alan Embry's up too, but I can't be sure. Terrell Wade about to check things out down at Greenville, by the way. He could be back in a week or 2 if all goes well.
That could be something that he could have mixed emotions about. I know he likes to start, but having another left arm in that bullpen, I think, would give the Braves much more balance down there. They want him to get, what was the number? I heard 15 innings to build his strength up.
Yeah. Mark Wohlers is the other hurler in the bullpen for Atlanta. 3-0 the count on Mondesi. Be careful here. They might just turn him loose. As hot as he is. They did turn him loose, but he came up empty. It's 3-1.
Got your numbers on the crowd, Mr. Carey.
49,318, another sellout. And the Braves in this series against the Dodgers drew 196,000 people. Grounded to short, should be easy. Those are throws. Got it. Boy, that Mondesi plays hard. I'd love to have him. He gives you 100% every day.
You can't watch him play and tell what the score is. If he's down 7-0 or up 7-0, he hustles on everything, offensively and defensively. And you were saying that should be an easy play. It was an easy play, but it was anything other. It was a lot other than just a routine play.
Eric Karras, another home run threat as the batter. And he hits it high and deep to left. Back goes Klesko. We got a tie game. On the first pitch, Karras hits his 23rd homer, drives in his 68th run. He hit into a big double play with the bases loaded and 1 out his last time, but he touches them all here.
This is one of the longest we've seen go to left yet. Wait till you see where this ends up. And Braves fans here at Turner Field developing the tradition of tossing it back. Ball coming back into him. He just flew open. He normally has right center field power. Watch this one go all the way to the aisle. That's halfway up left field. That is a long homer.
You know, Fox knew. He didn't have to look.
You don't have to look. You know the sound.
Here's Todd Zeile. He's also capable of hitting one out of the ballpark. It's 0-1. Well, all good things have to come to an end, they say, and that scoreless string for the Three Musketeers has just ended. Chipper, good play on a funny hop, long throw, good throw, inning over, but the Karras home run ties the game. 1 hit, 1 run, no errors, nobody left. Bottom half of the 8th inning, all tied 4-4. On to pinch hit. Radinsky went an inning, a hit, a run, a walk, a strikeout. The hit, a home run by Fred McGriff. And we're all knotted at 4. Braves got a run in the first, another in the second. The Dodgers got 3 in the third. Braves got a run in the fourth, another in the seventh. Dodgers got 1 in the 8th. And that's where we sit. Mark Lemke 1 for 3 with a run scored. 1 o'clock Eastern time for the double dip from Wrigley tomorrow. We have a big pregame or postgame show or anything, or between game show, Glenn? We don't. That's strange. What's on between games? Darren Hall pitches off the stretch and delivers. Didn't mean to. Check swing, foul, 0-1. So I'm told some baseball feature will be between games. Hall out of Marysville, Ohio. Ground ball to second. 1 out.
He was originally with Toronto, and he's one of those guys you'd like to see do well, not necessarily against you. The reason is I think he was about the 650th player drafted when he was drafted. Toronto let him go. Braves signed him as a fairly inexpensive. The Dodgers signed him as a fairly inexpensive free agent.
Boy, he toiled at it a long time in that Toronto organization. He started in '86 in Medicine Hat and didn't get to the big leagues till the end of the '94 season. He deals a strike to Tony Graffinino, who's hitting .296 with 3 homers and 8 RBI.
When he's successful, that's where Hall has to pitch, bottom of the strike zone, and tries to get you to hit the ball on the ground.
Just missed the outside corner. A ball and a strike.
A lot of people think that he resembles former Dodger Bob Welch until he goes into his windup.
Bob Welch was a heck of a pitcher.
Yes, he was.
Into the hole and past Guerrero off his glove. Graffinino around first. He's going to try, and he's going to get there. It'll probably be a double. Guerrero dove for the ball, and give Graffinino some credit. Boy, he never hesitated.
When he's on the field, something good happens offensively or defensively. This is a play that Guerrero did not have to dive for. And maybe his inexperience at short is what caused it. See, he dives there and doesn't have to. One more step backhand, he's in position to throw. But you run the risk of having the ball take a tricky hop, and you can't do anything about it if you're diving. Graffinino had to play in front of him, never hesitated. That is a hustle double.
And Jeff Blauser is the batter with the go-ahead run at second and one out in the bottom of the eighth. 0-1 away to Jeff. He's 1 for 4, a run-producing double in the fourth. 10 men left aboard by Atlanta today. They've out-hit the Dodgers 11-5, but it's all tied, and that's outside, and it's 2-0, and Michael Tucker is next.
I would guess if you're a right-hander, you can make your mind to go up to the plate and try to hit a slider off Hall.
Nobody up in the Dodger bullpen. With all the left-hand bombers coming up next for Atlanta after Blauser. The stretch and the 2-0. Outside, 3 balls, no strikes. Mark Guthrie just now beginning to stir around down there. The other left-hander they have. Well, will they turn Blauser loose 3-0? Bobby Cox does that more than any manager in recent memory.
I don't think so here.
We'll never know. He took it outside, walked on 4 pitches, 2 on, 1 out. So Darren Hall issues his first walk of the game, and Michael Tucker the batter.
And Prince out to talk to him. Dodgers were a little bit late getting that left-hander ready. So Prince trying to buy a little time right here. I don't know if it's going to be enough time, though, to get Guthrie ready to face Michael Tucker.
They've got Tucker, Chipper Jones, who's a more fearsome batter, left-handed. McGriff and Klesko, 4 lefties in a row coming up. Most teams like to turn Chipper around and make him hit right-handed. He has nowhere near the power from the right side he has from the left.
Braves might have caught somebody napping in that LA dugout right there.
Downstairs, 1 ball, no strikes.
Not having a left-hander ready just in case.
Hall buys a little time. He ties a shoe. It's been a beautiful day, though. The threat of rain has been predicted. 1 ball, no strikes. It's even. He had a good rip, but he came up empty. A ball and a strike. We won't know. The Braves won't know. Tom Glavine won't know probably until tomorrow as to the extent of his strained hamstring, how painful it will be, and whether or not he will have to miss a start. The 1-1 pitch. Here it is. Swung. Ground ball, might be 2. Out there. Out there, and the inning is over. So Hall gets out of the mess all right, thanks to the double play. 1 hit, no runs, no errors. Atlanta leaves yet another base runner, and at the end of 8 innings, your score 4-4.
Play and almost knocked one of the Dodger infielders into left field. This is hustle play by Blauser. That's how you stop it if you're the other shortstops. See him drop down from the side, and Jeff Blauser will not have to do his sideburns for the next couple of days because one of them got shaved off on that throw. Still good aggressive baseball on both ends. That's how the game's supposed to be played.
That's exactly right, and nobody's more admiring of it than Jeff Blauser. Mark Wohlers comes on to try to keep things right where they are, and Todd Hollandsworth will lead it off against him.
I know you do the radio talk show, and there's another one on 680 The Fan here, and I've heard a couple of callers call in and question Bobby Cox bringing in Wohlers at the top of the 9th inning. When you're at home, you treat the top of the 9th inning as though it were the end of the ball game, defensively. Because if you stop them now, this is their last opportunity to score. So this is when you bring in your closer. What you do is you treat it right now as though you have a one-run lead, because if you get them out, you get the last chance to score. So it's the right way to play it with your closer.
If not, you run the risk of losing the game and him never getting
into the ball game. That's right. So you manage defensively as though the top of the ninth were the end of the ball game defensively.
Todd Hollandsworth is the batter. He's 0 for 1 in his career against Wohlers, but not anymore. A solid single to start the bottom of the ninth. Then again, it helps if your closer gets him out when he pitches that bottom of the ninth. Let's see if that happens. The catcher, still known as Prince, stands in there. He's 0 for 3. But we were talking earlier, he's a good-looking backstep.
Well, he's the kind of guy you can count on. He might not play for 7 or 8 days, and he goes in, he battles, he stays ready to play, never complains.
Happy to be here.
Yep. Happy to earn the right to be here, and he does that. I would expect they'll be bunting here.
And you would be expecting correctly, but it's outside. 1 ball, no strikes.
Lieutenant Joey Amalfitano, he has worn out a few uniforms waving signs, hasn't he?
Oh, he's a great baseball man. Prince out of Kankakee, Illinois. He's been at it since 84, rather. Good bunt. Wohlers only play, well, he'll tag the runner. Prince does his job. Sacrifice, 1 unassisted. Listen to these towns where Prince has hung his hat: Waterton, Bradenton, Macon, Prince William, Harrisburg, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh, Albuquerque, Los Angeles, Los Angeles, Albuquerque, Albuquerque, Los Angeles, since 1984.
Boy could open a luggage store, couldn't he?
So he's had 10 partial years in the major league.
I know right now this game is the most important thing going on, but you brought up a point with San Diego. Wally Joyner stole home. Almost equally as surprising, Wally Joyner has just tripled. What's next? And inside the Parker?
He's going to be a tired dude tonight. The pitch. Upstairs, 1 ball, no strikes.
That's the top of the 7th inning. The Padres lead Florida 5-2.
Now they just added another one down, so 6-2 is the score.
Don't tell me Joyner stole home again.
He may have. We'll have to wait and see. The odds, however, are somewhat against him. Nelson Liriano, the batter. He's 1 out of 6 against Wohlers in his career. He's 0 for 3 today. 3 fly balls. Takes inside. 2 balls, no strikes. Eric Anthony is on deck to pinch hit next for the pitcher. Ground ball to second. Runner goes to third. Liriano is out. Runner at third with 2 down. Mark Guthrie, the left-hander. Todd Worrell, the right-hander. And Anthony, the batter, he won a game against Mark with a home run when he was with Cincinnati a couple years ago. But he also strikes out a good bit. He's 1 for 4 against Wohlers. That was that home run as a Red, a Cincinnati Red. Looking ahead to the bottom half of the 9th inning, the Braves would send Jones, McGriff, and Klesko to the plate. So I think we might get a good look at Mark Guthrie,
who by now will be warm.
Wohlers comes set and delivers. Fastball outside. 1 ball, no strikes. With you at 1 o'clock tomorrow for the Twin Bill in Wrigley. They'll have a mob up there for that, I would imagine. Swung and missed. Boy, what a cut he had. It's 1-1. He didn't get cheated on that one.
He can catch up to Bo's fastball. Remember, he was the guy that was going to be the left-handed power hitter for the Astros and give him 25 or 30 home runs, but yet he has yet to materialize into a consistent power hitter that everybody was predicting when he first started.
2 homers, 4 RBIs this year, and as a pinch hitter, 1 for 11. The 1-1 delivery. High, lazy fly into center. Should get him out of the inning. Andrew Jones waits and takes, and the inning is over. So the leadoff single does no harm. 1 hit, no runs, no errors, 1 left. Bottom of the 9th. Braves trying to win the game. We're tied 4-4. Guthrie will face Chipper Jones, who's 2 out of 5 against him. Fred McGriff, who's 7 out of 17 against him. And Ryan Klesko, who's 1 out of 6 against him. Here in the bottom of the 9th.
Those numbers were a lot more impressive than that when we saw him out west, but he has fallen on hard times lately, giving up a few runs, and the scouting report we get is that his forkball is just kind of sitting there tumbling. He doesn't have a real good break on it, and he's getting behind in the count. Guthrie, that is.
Chipper stands in there. He's 0 for 4. He's due. Oh, and inside. 1 ball, no strikes. A hot hitting Fred McGriff on deck. Thanks for spending your Monday afternoon with us. We appreciate it. Curveball on the corner, evens it up at 1-1. Long hot day for the veteran umpire Terry Tater behind the plate. Downs, check it, strike at the knees. A ball and 2 strikes. Chipper upset with that one.
It's been made longer and hotter too by the fact that about 10 or 12 times he's had to cope with that. A lot of disagreements by both sides on the size of his strike zone.
Grounded to short, should be easy. Funny hop, but Guerrero's got it. 1 away. So Chipper is retired. Mark Sweeney just knocked in 2 with a single, and San Diego has scored 4, and they lead 8-2 in the top of the 7th at Florida. So that one looks like it's in pretty good shape. Here's McGriff. Fred has hit the ball hard every time. He walked his first time, lined out in the 3rd, doubled in the 5th. A shot over the head of Raul Mondesi, and then had a home run to straightaway center against the left-hander Radinsky in the 7th. And he lines this one into left for a hit. Hollingsworth can only play it on 1 hop. Now the Braves have a decision to make. That's the winning run, and they're going to run for him. Danny Bautista will run for Fred, who had a great day. 3 out of 4. Bautista will stay in the game to play left. Klesko will go to first.
Watch how easy and how uncomplicated his swing is. Very little movement. Fred, for a while, had gotten into the habit of a lot of movement, short stride. Sometimes when you're injured, it's not all bad, and I think for him, he has a lot calmer demeanor in the batter's box now. I really think it's helped him.
So Ryan Klesko stands in there, hitting .192 against left-handers for the year, but with 3 home runs against him. That's coming into this game. And Radinsky got him out, so he's hitting about .189 now. Throw to first. Bautista back easily. Just missed. He would have gotten a break there. 1-0. Andrew Jones is next. Darren Dreifert begins to throw in the bullpen for the Angelinos. The pitch. Double play ball to second. Out there, and the inning is over. Nothing doing in the 9th for Atlanta. Ryan hit that ball sharply, but right at Nelson Liriano. 1 hit, no runs, no errors, nobody left. Free baseball in Atlanta at the end of 9. All tied 4-4.
7th have offset the Mets. Single run in the 2nd and 2 in the 6th. Everett has a home run. Oliver, a home run for Cincinnati. Bottom of the 8th. They're tied at 3. Everything else a little bit later on.
And here we go to the 10th inning. Alan Embry on to pitch for Atlanta. Ryan Klesko moves to first. Bautista, as we told you he would, stays in the game to play left field. So Alan Embry gets the call. There's Danny. Embry 1-1, a 3.33 earned run average. He's been a busy guy. This is his 42nd appearance, but he's worked only 27 innings. He'll face the top of the Dodger order. Cedeno, Guerrero, and Mondesi are due in the 10th. Chad Fox, by the way, 2 innings, 1 hit, 1 run, 1 strikeout. Wohlers 1 inning, 1 hit. And now Alan Embry gets the call. He's the 4th Atlanta pitcher of the year, not of the year, but of the day. Cedeno is 1 out of 3 with a walk. He's scored a run. He's got great running speed, a good man to keep off base if you can. But come to think of it, I guess they're all good men to keep off base if you can figure out a way to do it.
Even the ones without good running speed sometimes.
Well, Karras doesn't run well, but didn't have to when he tied the game up. Here we go. First pitch swinging. Cedeno had a home run cut, but he fouled it back. It's 0-1.
This is developing into the kind of game you do not want to have with tomorrow facing you. You got a doubleheader, and usually that means you're going to have to go to the bullpen a few times. Now all of a sudden the Braves have had to use 3 out of there.
0-2. Embry quickly out in front. Dodgers keep winning that Rookie of the Year thing, but doesn't look like it's going to happen this year unless Guerrero really gets hot. They've won 5 in a row. Upstairs, a ball and 2 strikes.
Yes, it is that hot here, and it's even hotter in the dugout.
On that field, though, it's brutal. 2 balls, 2 strikes. The 2-2 struck him out. Embry off to a good start. Here's the aforementioned Wilton Guerrero.
Shortstop Wilton Guerrero.
His brother Vladimir plays for the Montreal Expos. And is a Rookie of the Year candidate in his own right. Downstairs, 1 ball, no strikes. 10th inning at Atlanta. And a double dip tomorrow. Lazy fly into left center field. Danny Bautista glasses down, has it, 2 down. There is danger here. Raul Mondesi, a 3-run homer. We'd have been out of here a long time ago. The Dodgers scored those 3 runs all after 2 were out. Liriano flied to right. Nomo struck out. Cedeno single. Guerrero singled, and bang, Mondesi hit one right out of here down the right field line.
And to this point, well, here's what it looked like. Looked like a good pitch. Out away, maybe not even a strike. He can hit it hard the other way. To this point, Embry has thrown everything up in the strike zone. You cannot afford to do that with Mondesi.
Foul back and out of play, 0-1.
He struck out Cedeno after getting strikes on high pitches. He got Guerrero to chase something out of the strike zone. But if you throw those same pitches to Mondesi, about belt high, letter high, out away, he could hurt somebody in the chop house.
Maybe make $1 million winner down the left field line in the Coke Pavilion.
No, I don't think he is one of the hitters that's going to hit it up there. His strike.
I don't know if anybody ever is. Do you? Andrew,
if
Javi,
it happens, I want to be around to see it, because that is a poke. But this guy's strength is to right center field. That's a good pitch there. That's the first pitch he's gotten down and in to anybody. Now it allows him chance to take some shots. There's what we were talking about. That's a long way. That's a 45-minute flight.
As hard as Karas's home run was, just think how far that came from making it to that level. It's possible, though. It really is. Andrew Jones, had he pulled that ball in Philadelphia, might have hit it that hard. Mondesi goes down swinging. Nice job by Embry. Strikes out 2 of the 3 men he faces. We go to the bottom half of the 10th inning. We're tied 4-4. Was on the field. He's a #1 draft choice out of the University of Wichita. Has had some arm problems, but boy, he can bring it up there in good order when he's healthy, and he's healthy right now. They do have an excellent bullpen, the Dodgers do. I still sort of like them in the West. What do you think, Doc?
Yeah, I think that if they can get everybody back in the lineup, get everybody healthy playing, I think the loss of Piazza is a big blow. But right now, too, remember they're without Ramon Martinez, they're without Ishmael Valdez. So they need some help from some people all the way around. And if they can get it, then they have a shot at it. But they need right now no more injuries to their pitching staff, and to find out that Piazza's injury is just a slight one.
Mark Guthrie, an inning and a hit, all zeros the rest of the way across. And Andrew Jones leads it off. We're in the bottom of the 10th. First ball today was thrown out by Chuck Wolf, president of Wolf Camera and Video. A nice fellow. Pitch to Jones all the way to the screen. 1 ball, no strikes. Nobody on or out. What a cut. Home run swing, but he missed it. 1-1.
When you're big and you throw hard and you come into an organization where one of the all-time record holders had the initials DD, invariably the comparisons will be made to Don Drysdale. That's happened for Darren Dryford.
He throws like him a little bit, doesn't he?
Yeah, a little out of the side, and he's intimidating. He's big. Got a mean streak in him.
Well, we all miss Drysdale. He was quite a man. Well hit, but well foul. It's 2-2.
It's amazing how things pop up, too, to rekindle your memory of people that you've lost. Getting ready for this trip today, I went down to get a briefcase that I can use, a smaller one. I pop it open, and the first thing that falls out was a picture of Don and his wife Ann that was made the last trip we made to California, just before we lost them.
3 balls, 2 strikes to Andrew Jones. And now Jerry Doggett has passed on as well, longtime Dodger announcer. Payoff pitch, here we go. He walked in, the winning run is on. Well, there's a start.
And it's nice to see Andrew Jones developing more and more patience. I think that the longer he plays, and it's happening very quickly for Andrew. A lot of youngsters don't pick it up for a while. He is really developing a good idea of what the strike zone is.
Here's Eddie Perez. First pitch the last time he reached base. Andrew took off. Let's see what he does this time. I don't know. I don't remember Dryford's move. We have seen him so little. Both Hideo Nomo and Tom Glavine are off the hook in this game. Can't win it, can't lose it.
Book says you try to bunt him along here.
Well, if he's going to keep missing the plate, that's okay with us. In extra inning games, by the way, Braves 4-4, Dodgers 5-4. With their bullpen, I'm a little surprised their record isn't better. The Dodgers, I mean.
I think you're going to find that some of those losses can be tagged to Guthrie with the stretch he was going through.
And Worrell has had 5 blown saves this year, which is a lot for him.
Yeah, I was talking to some of the people who follow the Dodgers, some of the writers. They say he is really short. His fastball shorter this year. Stuff not nearly as crisp as last year.
The 1-0. Outside, 2 balls, no strikes. I thought sure Terry Tatum was going to raise the right arm that time. Looked like he was, but he didn't do it. And Prince calls time, has a word with Dreifert. Fans continue to swelter here in the Atlanta Heat. But hard back to the mound. Dreifert goes to second. Low throw. Good play. What a play by Guerrero, and the fast man is off base. Dreifert gambled and won and got bailed out by a shortstop. 1-6 fielder's choice.
He had a lot more time than he eventually ended up using up because he got off balance there. That is one heck of a play by the shortstop. See, he is so closed, he had to make a big step and then threw it in the dirt. He's playing it like a first baseman. He picked that one clean like a first baseman. Good play on the other end. That is not a good play by Dreifert, and his shortstop bailed him out. Our Braves would have him at second and third. The right call.
Now Rafael Belliard is going to come out and pinch run for Eddie Perez. Braves running low on troops here. But that's the way Bobby manages. Each inning he goes for the knockout. Mark Lemke will be the batter, and Mike Mordecai moves on deck. Belliard gets a good hand from the crowd. He's a popular favorite here. The pitch. Fastball must have been high. 1 ball, no strikes. Mike Mordecai on deck, fighting a 5 for 48 drought. Fly ball foul. 1-1. That one reached the upper deck. Lemke stands back in there. Dreifert bluffs to first.
If my numbers are right, if the Braves are playing to win it now, because if you don't, the move with Belliard means you got to use your last player.
Tim Spear. 2 balls and a strike.
With Lemke up there, I'd like to see Dreifert get in a situation where he has to throw the fastball. There isn't anybody on this Braves ball club who can turn on a fastball any better than Mark Lemke, especially a high one.
And the guy on deck is a fastball hitter too, Mordecai.
Yep.
A little hit and run, but he fouled it away.
That's a perfect pitch too. Down and away, tailing away from Mark Lemke. He had to reach across the plate. You got to make 2 adjustments when the ball's out there. You got to adjust out and down, so it's hard, first of all, to make contact, and second, it's hard to drive it. The one he's looking for is the one belt above outer half, and that's the one Tom Prince is going to try to stay out of. He's going to get a fastball.
It's outside, 3-2. You'd figure Belliard would be running. We're trying to beat him with our Lilliputian attack here. Belliard at first, Lemke in the batter's box, and Mordecai on deck. He's running. Line, left field, base hit. Rafi around second. He's going to try to come over. The throw is in there. The winning run is at third. Sending the runner pays off. First and third, 1 out for Mordecai. Boy, is he due.
If you don't go 3-2, you don't get this. That's a good pitch. Lemke didn't try to drive that one. He just tried to drop a little topspin lob into left. That extra 2 steps he got by being on the move made the difference. Watch how close this is. The slide, the tag, in by a step and a half.
So here's Mike Mordecai. For the year, 2 out of 31 as a pinch hitter. He is really fighting it, but he is due.
Well, if you're Mordecai, you got to look for something to hit on the first pitch. If you're LA, you've got to make sure you go to the breaking ball on the first pitch. He is a dead red first ball fastball hitter.
Hasn't driven in a run since May 5th.
So what you try to do if you're the pitcher is make a pitch either to strike him out or to get him to hit it weakly, because the infield is going to be in.
Will they squeeze? No, sir. Ground ball to third. They'll come home, and he is easily out at the plate. Runners at first and second, 2 out. Mordecai hit the first pitch right at him with the infield in. That's when you're going bad.
Yep.
5 feet either way, that's through, and the ball game is over.
And it's a pitch a pitcher should not have thrown. Fastball right down the middle. Mordecai all over it, but right at Zeal. That's a no contest. Belliard is not going to crash into Tom Prince.
Well, if he does, he's insane.
He's also back in left field, probably.
Yeah.
You got to have a high-level caucus now, because you got some strategy here you got to think of. You got runners in first and second. You got the right-hander up. Dreifert would rather face Blauser. But you got to decide where you're going to go if the ball's hit.
A force at any base except the plate. Blauser double to right on 1 at bat today. He has also walked. He's 1 for 4.
Jeff does some of his best hitting when he takes a shot to right field. And against a guy like Dreifert, Mike Scioscia moving the outfielders around. They're playing him very shallow in right and in right center. I'd look for Jeff to take something that way.
Look out, almost hit him. 1 ball, no strikes. You've got average speed at second base. You've got a cannon in right field, a good arm in center field. I don't really know that much about Hollandsworth's arm, but it's not real bad. I know that because he plays some center field for them.
About a third of his hits have gone to right, so it's not that hard for Blauser to take a shot over there.
Lemke gets a good-sized lead. Low, 2-0. Michael Tucker would be next. We're in the 10th. We're tied 4-4. The sun has gone behind a cloud to the delight of many of the fans here. It's a hot one.
I think if you're the Dodgers, you got to play Blauser to pull in the infield, but you've got to shade him way around to right field in the outfield.
And that's just what they do. And he takes a shot that way, but fouls it off. 2 balls, 1 strike.
Dreifert throws a running fastball that comes in on the hands of a right-hander, so if it's upstairs, it's going to be easier to hit the right. But if it's down, it's going to be easier to pull. Still think Guerrero is not taking enough of the hole away. And there's a lot of room up the middle.
Blauser just 0 for 1 against Dreifert in his career. It really didn't mean anything. Line into right center field. Cedeno on the run. Braves win. Blauser ripped it into the alley in right center. Don had it right on the nose. He went the other way, and he wins the ball game for Atlanta. That'll, in all likelihood, be scored a single and an RBI. Blauser does it again, and the Braves come away a 5-4 winner in 10 innings. Let's look at it again, partner.
Inside out swing. Here comes the fastball. He wants it away. Watch Blauser stride in, open up, head down, the bat right through it. He's thinking right field all the way. They had not shaded him over there. That's a perfect situational hitting. He's got to be pleased with that. You love it when you do things right and it turns out right, and Blauser did it that way. Braves win at 5-4. We'll be back after this timeout. His clutch single, sending in the game-winning RBI in the 10th inning, completed a 2-for-5 day. A couple of good jobs defensively too. Blauser's our AutoZone player of the game. Braves win at 5-4 in 10 for the Braves. 5 runs, 14 hits, 2 errors with 11 stranded. For Los Angeles, 4-6-1 with 5 stranded. Emery picks up his second win. Dreifert picks up his first loss. Home runs, 2 for LA, Mondesi and Karras. McGriff hit a big one, zipped it to center field. And we'll keep an eye and report to you tomorrow on the status of Tom Glavine. Braves needed this win, makes the homestand 6-6 and another plus in the 1-run column. Skip, they're 19-12 there.
And they're 5-4 now in extra inning games, and the Dodgers 5-5. And our next telecast, 1 o'clock tomorrow against the Cubs, a doubleheader. Maddox and Nagel against Jeremy Gonzalez and Terry Mulholland. Don't forget, coming up tonight at 8:05 on the Superstation, Drew Barrymore stars in Poison Ivy. For our TBS crew, Don Sutton, Pete Van Weren, Joe Simpson, Skip Carey from the ballpark. See you from Chicago tomorrow. So long, everybody.